Welcome back to the deep dive.
I was thinking about how we usually view language. It feels pretty straightforward, right? You see a tree, you stick the label tree on it. You see a dog, you call it dog.
Right, the world is there, and we just put names on it.
Yeah, like it's a museum, and words are just the little placards we put in front of the exhibits.
That is the common sense view,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's called nomenclature, the idea that language is just a list of names for things that already exist.
But after spending the last few days with this research on structuralism, honestly, I don't think I can look at a dictionary or even speak a sentence the same way again.
Oh, yeah.
Because the deeper we get into this, the more it feels like we aren't just naming the world. It feels like we are kind of trapped in a code that creates the world.
You are tapping right into the main vein here. We're looking at the moment linguistics stopping about, dusty history books and started being about the invisible operating system of human thought. We're talking about the structuralist revolution, and specifically, the man who arguably wrote the source code, Ferdinand de Saussure.
The man himself.
But here's the hook that really got me, and I want to start here because it sounds like a literary mystery. The book that changed everything, the course in general linguistics, Saussure didn't even write it.
He didn't. It's one of the great ironies of intellectual history. Saussure was a professor in Geneva. He gave these legendary lectures between 1906 and 1911.
Okay.
He was revolutionizing how we think about language, but he was a perfectionist. He never put it all into a book. He died in 1913 without publishing his masterpiece.
So we have this revolutionary thinker who dies, leaving nothing but what? Air behind him. How do we even have this book?
Well, his colleagues, Charles Bally and Albert Sechehay, they realized the importance of what had happened in that lecture hall. But here's the kicker.
What?
They hadn't actually attended the course.
Wait, what? The guys who wrote the Bible of modern linguistics weren't even in the room.
Nope. They had to act like detectives. They gathered up the notebooks from the students who were there. They had to collate conflicting notes, fill in the gaps, and sort of smooth out the rough edges to create the text we have today.
That is terrifying. It's like finding out the Constitution was written based on someone's hazy memory of a town hall meeting.
It is a bit precarious. And later on, in the mid-20th century, scholars like Robert Goodell went back to the raw source material, the actual student notes,
Oh, wow.
and found that Bally and Sechehay had made Saussure sound a lot more certain, a lot more clean than he actually was. The original thought was more wrestling, more questioning.
But even the clean version, the ideas were a bomb. So our mission today is to unpack that explosion. We're going to look at Saussure's big ideas, the source code.
Right.
Then we'll see how the Prague School turned that code into a way to understand sound, how Copenhagen tried to turn it into algebra, and finally how others made it about social prediction.
It's really a journey from seeing language as a list of history facts to seeing it as a massive interconnected system.
So let's start with the foundation. Saussure's first big split, the distinction between lang and parole. Now, in English, we just have the word language. It does a lot of heavy lifting. But Saussure said, that's lazy. You have to split it.
Exactly. He made a sharp cut between the system and the event. Lang is the system. It's the rules, the grammar, the vocabulary, all stored in the collective mind of the community. Think of it like the rules of chess.
Okay, I like the chess analogy. So lang is the rule book. It defines how the knight moves, how the queen moves. It exists even if nobody is playing a game right now.
Precisely. And then you have parole. Parole is the individual act of speaking. It's the specific game of chess you and I play on a Tuesday afternoon.
And my game might be messy. I might make a mistake. I might be tired.
Right. And Saussure's big argument was this. Linguistics has been wasting its time studying the specific games, the parole. We need to ignore the individual speech acts with all their errors and quirks and study the lang,
The system.
the system that makes the game possible.
So stop looking at the players. Look at the board.
Yes, the system is social, the speech is individual, the system is essential, the speech is accidental.
That makes sense. Now, once you decide to look at the system, you run into a problem of time. This is the second big split, synchrony versus diachrony.
This was a direct attack on the linguistics of his day. In the 19th century, if you studied language, you studied history. You traced how a word evolved from Sanskrit to Latin to French. That's diachrony moving through time.
And Saussure basically said, who cares?
Basically, he used the chess analogy again. If you walk into a room and see a game in progress, you don't need to know the history of every move that happened 3 hours ago to understand the state of the board right now.
The history is irrelevant to the current system.
Exactly. He said we have to study synchrony, a snapshot of the language state at a specific moment. Because think about it. When you use the word podcast, are you thinking about the agricultural roots of broadcast or the etymology of pod?
Not at all. I'm just thinking I need to record this.
Exactly. The speaker is unaware of the history. So if we want to understand how the system works for the speaker, we have to ignore the history. The classic example is the French word pas.
Right. The research notes mention this. Pas.
Historically, pas comes from the Latin word for step, like taking a physical step. But in modern French, it's just a negative marker. Je ne marche pas. I do not walk.
So if I analyze that word historically, I'm thinking about footsteps. But if I analyze it synchronically as it works right now, it just means not.
Correct. The system has repurposed it. The history helps explain how it got there, but it doesn't explain how it functions in the current grid.
Okay, so we've frozen time. We're looking at the board. Now we have to look at the pieces, the sign. This is where Saussure gets a little trippy. He says a word is like a sheet of paper with two sides.
The signifier and the signified. The signifier is the sound pattern, the acoustic image. The signified is the concept in your head.
So the sound cat is the signifier. The mental image of a fuzzy killer is the signified.
And you can't have one without the other. But the crucial point, the thing that defines structuralism, is that the link between them is arbitrary.
Arbitrary, meaning there's no reason for it.
No reason at all. There is nothing cat-like about the sound cat. It could have been glarb, it could have been piffle. The only reason cat means cat is because we all agreed to the convention.
But if the words are just random sounds we agreed on, then where does meaning actually come from? Because this is the part of the notes that actually made me put my coffee down. Saussure says meaning creates itself through difference.
This is the negative difference. It is the most profound and difficult concept in structuralism. Saussure said, in language, there are only differences without positive terms.
That sounds like Zen philosophy. Only differences without positive terms. Break that down using the sheep and mutton example, because that was the only way I could visualize it.
It's the perfect example. So in English, we have the word sheep. That refers to the living animal on the farm.
Right.
And we have the word mutton. That refers to the meat on the plate.
Two words. Two different territories.
Right. But in French, they only have one word, mouton.
And mouton covers both the animal and the meat.
Exactly. So does the French word mouton mean the same thing as the English word sheep?
I want to say yes, but I feel like the answer is no.
The answer is no, because the value of the English word sheep is limited. It stops at the butcher shop door. Why? Not because of anything in the sheep itself, but because the word mutton is right there, pushing back against it.
So sheep is defined by the fact that it is not mutton.
Precisely. And in French, mouton doesn't have that neighbor. It doesn't have that competition, so its meaning expands to cover the whole territory.
That is wild. So if we deleted the word mutton from English tomorrow, the meaning of sheep would automatically change.
It would have to. It would expand to fill the void. This is the key. Signs don't have meaning in isolation. They have meaning because of their position in the grid. Hot only means hot because it's not cold and it's not lukewarm.
It's a grid of negative space. We define everything by what it isn't.
Welcome to structuralism. It creates a vision of language where we aren't naming reality. We are casting a net over it, and the shape of the net determines what we catch.
So Saussure builds this net in Geneva. But in the 1920s, the action moves. We go to Prague, the Prague Linguistic Circle. And these guys take Saussure's abstract net and apply it to something physical, sound.
This is the birth of phonology. And it's important to distinguish this from phonetics. Phonetics is just physics, tongue position, air pressure, sound waves. That's the raw material.
That's the messy parole stuff.
Right. The Prague School, led by guys like Trubetskoy and Roman Jakobson, asked, what makes a sound functional in the system? They gave us the concept of the phoneme.
The phoneme, the pixel of language.
That's a great analogy. A phone is the smallest unit of sound that makes a difference in meaning.
So pat and fat.
Pat and fat. The only difference is the P and the F. Because swapping them changes the meaning of the word completely, we know that P and F are distinct phonemes in English. They are different pixels.
But the research brought up this comparison with Italian that really showed how our brains are filtered.
Yes. In English, the N sound in sin and the eng sound in sing are different. They change the meaning. Sin is bad, sing is music. Distinct phones.
Got it.
But in Italian, those two sounds exist, but they never change the meaning of a word. The eng sound only shows up as a variant, like in the word sighing for blood. but you can't find a pair of words where swapping N for NG changes the definition.
So to an Italian speaker, those two sounds are the same pixel.
Effectively, yes. Their mental grid counts them as one unit. The system tells them, don't pay attention to this difference, it doesn't carry information.
That is incredible. So speaking a language literally trains your ear to ignore certain sounds and focus on others. It's like that we all have different audio filters installed.
And Roman Jacobson took this even further. He tried to digitize it. He argued that all phones are just bundles of binary switches, distinctive features.
Plus or minus.
Exactly. Is the sound plus voice or navite voice? Is it plus nasal or navel-nasal? He tried to break down all human speech into a universal binary code.
It's like he was trying to write the assembly code for the human voice before computers were even a thing.
He really was. It was an attempt to find the mathematical atoms of communication.
Speaking of math, let's travel north to Copenhagen. Because if Prague was about digital sound, the Copenhagen school was about pure algebra.
Yeah.
This section of the notes felt the most abstract to me. Louis Helmslev and glossomatics.
Helmslev is definitely the hard mode of structuralism. He looked at Saussure and said, too much psychology, too much real world. He wanted a linguistics that was pure structure, immanent.
He had this idea that languages don't just label reality, they carve it up, like they physically slice the pie of reality differently.
This is the concept of the form of the content, and the best way to see it is with the tree example again.
Lead on me.
Okay, imagine the reality of trees and forests. In French, you have the word bois. Now, bois covers a specific territory. It can mean a small forest, like a woods, but it can also mean the material wood that you build a table with.
Okay, so one word, two concepts.
Now look at German. German cuts that same pie differently. They have Holz for the material, the wood, and they have Wald for the forest.
So where French sees a connection, German sees a hard border.
Exactly. But it gets messier. Because the German Wald implies a big forest. French distinguishes between bois, a small wood, and a forêt, a big forest.
My head is spinning.
The point is, there isn't an objective tree reality that we all agree on. English cuts the pie one way, French cuts it another, German cuts it another. The language projects a grid onto the world, and we mistake that grid for reality.
That is the Matrix moment right there. We aren't seeing the world. We're seeing our language's map of the world.
That is the core insight of the Copenhagen School. Content has a form, and that form is arbitrary.
Okay, let's ground this a little bit. We've been very abstract: systems, sounds, algebraic cuts. But eventually people have to actually speak sentences. We have to string these things together.
Right.
This brings us to Lucien Tesnière and the magnetic verb.
Tesnière was a French linguist who was a bit of an outsider, but he changed how we see sentences. He moved away from the old subject plus predicate logic and introduced valency.
Which is a chemistry term, right?
It is. In chemistry, an atom has valency. It attracts a certain number of electrons. Tesnière said verbs are the same. The verb is the center of the solar system. It has a gravitational pull.
So the verb is the boss, and it demands certain actors.
Exactly. He called them actants. Think of the verb like a movie director casting a scene.
Okay.
Take the verb rain, it rains. That's a zero valency verb. It doesn't need any actors. The it is just a dummy placeholder.
Nobody is actually doing the raining.
Right. Now take the verb sleep. John sleeps. The director says, I need one actor to lie down. That's valency 1.
Simple enough.
But take a verb like give. John gave Mary a book. The director says, I need a giver, I need a receiver, and I need a gift. If you leave one out, John gave Mary, the audience is confused, the structure is broken.
Because the verb's gravity demands 3 bodies in orbit.
Exactly. This dependency grammar is actually how a lot of modern computer parsing works. It looks for the verb and then looks for the satellites attached to it.
It's a really mechanical, almost engineering way to look at a sentence.
Yeah.
But let's finish our tour in London. The London School. John Firth.
Firth was a character. He was less about the abstract algebra and more about the social reality. He didn't care about the dictionary definition. He cared about context.
Meaning is use.
Yes. You shall know a word by the company it keeps. This is the concept of collocation.
This is the idea that words have friends. They like to hang out together.
They do. We have statistical habits. The example Firth used, which is hilarious, was, you stupid ass.
It's very vivid.
It makes the point. He argued that if you hear the word stupid in an emphatic tone, your brain is almost chemically primed to expect a word like ass or idiot to follow. They collocate.
It's like predictive text.
It is exactly like predictive text. Long before iPhones, Firth realized that our brains are prediction machines. We don't analyze every word from scratch. We predict what's coming based on the company the previous words usually keep.
So strong hangs out with coffee, but powerful hangs out with engine. Even though strong and powerful can mean the same thing, you wouldn't say powerful coffee.
You could, but it would sound weird. It would violate the collocation rules. It would sound like a glitch in the matrix.
So let's look at this roadmap we've just traveled. We started with Saussure in Geneva, who told us that language is a system of differences, a rule book we didn't write.
Right.
And we went to Prague, where they showed us that this system acts like a digital filter for sound. We only hear the pixels our language allows us to hear.
Yes.
Then Copenhagen, where they showed us that the system creates the categories of reality itself. We only see the trees or forests our language carves out for us.
The form of the content.
And finally, London, where they showed us that we are just predicting the next word based on statistical habits.
It's a complete deconstruction of the idea that we are in control. We tend to think, I have a thought and I put it into words. Structuralism says, no. The words are already there, organized in a grid. You just step into the grid and let the system speak through you.
That brings me back to that haunting idea from Saussure, the negative difference. If cat only means cat because it's not bat or rat,
Then the whole system is built on negativity. It's a web of empty spaces.
it's like a net made entirely of holes.
That is the ultimate structuralist anxiety. If language is just a system of references to other parts of the system, do we ever actually touch the real world, or are we just trapped inside the dictionary, bouncing from one definition to another forever?
We are just playing chess in the dark.
In a way, yes. But at least now, thanks to Saussure, we know the rules of the game.
And that seems like the perfect place to leave it. Next time you speak, ask yourself, are you choosing the words or are the words choosing you? Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
See you next time.